Okay, so we have Queen KeShawn here with us today. How are you, Queen? How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. How have you been?
I've been good. I'm over the quarantine. I'm over being at home. I'm working from home full time, so that's not fun. It was okay at first because I was able to roll over and get to work, but now it's like I don't have the opportunities to separate work from home. It's like my home is work, so it's kind of weird, and we can't go anywhere. So it is what it is.
Right. So back in March, you saying that it's affecting your being able to determine day from night. I know I went through that struggle too. Like, is it day or night? Is it Thursday or Friday?
Yes.
I don't really
Yes.
know where it is. And since
Yeah.
we've been in this pandemic, how else has it affected you?
Um, First mentally it was a lot. Like I said, not being able to I think you don't really realize how much you have to separate home from work until you actually don't have a choice. So at first it was really hard, just being home all the time. So I found a way to just I started working out. I'm not a gym person. I can't do the gym, but I can walk. So I just started, every day I would walk with one of my friends. We would walk we started at like 2 miles and then we got all the way up to 5 miles, just to get out the house, to take a mental break, get some fresh air. It was like the one thing we could do. So, like I said, at first it was a hard adjustment, but now I think it's just knowing that you do need some outdoor time. Like people do realize you need to step outside, get your sun. You need it, put some sunblock on, what you need to do. But you gotta get out the house. You can't be in the house. And I was starting to realize how being in the house affects your mental health. Like I said, I never realized it until I was put in this position. I mean, I just thank God that I have the mental capacity to know when something's off with me and I can recognize it and just, tackle it head on. I realize a lot of people don't know that. And I feel like a lot of people, I know a lot of friends who went through depression during this time, because they're able to separate work and home. And some people have kids. I mean, that's not my situation, but it's just hard. But we've been making it through, praying a lot, getting outside.
Yeah. So what have you learned new since you've been stuck in the house? What have you learned new about yourself?
That I have a liking for, I don't even know if that's the right word to use, but I like interior design. I recently moved, and um, being able to make something your own is something that I really have a passion for. Like, it probably happened maybe like a year ago. I was in my apartment. I would just like find different things of like, oh, I can hang this up here. I can put a candle here. I can put a fixture here. And so that's one thing I learned during quarantine, is that I really think I have a passion for interior design. And so that's something that I really want to explore more. I was thinking about getting like an interior design certification. I don't even know if that's a thing, but just exploring my creative style. I always said I'm not the creative one in the bunch. If you're gonna put me in a bunch of people, I can get things done. I can execute things. I can come up with a plan. I can come up with a timeline. But I never saw myself as creative, and so being able to express myself through furniture or decorating my home and making it feel like a home, that's something that I've definitely learned during this whole pandemic time.
That's good. That's really good. That's really good. So we started with the pandemic in March, and then we moved on right to the unnecessary killing of George Floyd, which
Yeah.
then, of course, led us to all the protests going on in the country and across the world. Honestly, dealing with the racism in the United States, in our country. Have you ever dealt with it before?
Of course.
Okay.
Well, I remember my first racist experience being when I was in high school. I was probably like 14 or 15. It was my freshman year. I had moved from being in a predominantly Black area my whole life. Like, I went to school in DC. I went to a charter school, excellent school. Then we moved to Prince George's County, where I went to another Black school. So I was always in Black school. I saw white people occasionally, but I just never interacted with them. So now I was in eighth grade. I mean, yeah, in eighth grade we moved down here. I started seeing more white people because now, we're in Charles County, where everything is, it's just a lot of white people. In ninth grade, I had my first racist experience. I was in a gym class, and this girl, she got really upset. I don't know what happened, but made the comment to a lot of us and basically said she would hang us.
Oh.
And when I heard that, it took me aback because I'm like, did she really just say that? She didn't. It's 2000, whatever year it was. She decided to come out of her mouth and say, and this is another teenager who's 14, 15 years old who said something like that. And so that was my first racist experience that personally that I've experienced. I mean, of course, growing up in Black schools, you know, we're taught this, you know, the same Black History Month education as everyone else had to say. Some schools are more dedicated to learning about our history than others. My elementary school was very active in teaching us about our culture and our history. So thank God for that, or I would have never known a lot of the stuff that, you know, I know now. But it just goes to show you that racism is still alive. It's never gone anywhere. A lot of people want to think that, oh, it's coming back up. No, boo, it never went anywhere. It's always here. We just, and I think right now it's just with the whole social media, it's more present. We're able to see it a lot more because everybody's recording, everything is on camera. And we went through a phase where a lot of stuff wasn't recorded, so therefore it was kind of swept under the rug. But to answer your question, yes, I have experienced racism in school. I've experienced racism going into the store, whether it was blatant or, you know, something that somebody has said, looked at me a certain way. I used to work in retail, and I remember specifically, I was 22 years old. I was living in Florida at the time, and I was just graduated from college. Went to Howard University, so I have a very high degree from a very great school. And this man, because I'm Black and I'm a woman, he decided to make the comment to me. It was about a scale, and he was asking, why is the percentage this amount and not this amount? And I explained it to him. He was like, well, you know, I wouldn't expect you to know how to do that math. And his wife was with him. And if I haven't said it, he was a white man. She was with him, and she was like, oh, don't mind him. I was so hot inside to tell someone else to come deal with this customer because I felt myself about to step outside of who I was. I believe this man just said that to me because in my mind, I'm like, I just graduated from college with a whole degree. I'm pretty sure I know how to do simple percentage math. But of course, he wouldn't have known that. He made the comment because I'm Black. The only reason why he would have made that, and because I work in retail, and people just, now I got two things against me. I'm Black and I work in retail. They just assume you're stupid. Yeah, so I've experienced it all. It's sad to say, but recently I've just been thinking like, I wonder how many other people, number one, I know most Black people have experienced racism, but at what age did you experience racism? Like what's your earliest memory of racism? You know, and that's when I was 14 or 15.
We walk into stores sometimes and are watched. You know, you realize that at a young age, you know, let me keep my hands up. Let me keep my hands free so nobody thinks I'm stealing anything. Being that you were in such a 100% all Black environment, and then you moved and made extreme to the ultimate extreme in La Plata High School. What was the transition like?
For me, I'm a people person, so I can kind of get along with anybody. So the transition, I mean, obviously, you know, you're in middle school, you're in that awkward stage of what clique do I want to be a part of? Because let's be real, cliques exist. It is what it is. But I'm a people person and I can kind of maneuver in any group. So for me, it wasn't really, it was different to say, oh, now I have friends or associates who are white. But I don't think I really thought about it. It was just more so like, oh, okay, we're in the same class. We like some of the things, we laugh at the same jokes. We're friends, you know, just being naive and being kids. You don't really think about the word friend. So for me, the transition wasn't really that hard until, like I said, freshman year, and that comment was, and I went to La Plata High School and just seeing other stuff like outside of that situation. I remember my first, you know, everybody like to throw Black History, you know, celebrations, assemblies during Black History Month. And I remember there being one, and in the front row, it was a group of white boys with Confederate flags on their shirts. And nobody said anything to them. And that is just another instance of, you know, how, number one, how are they even allowed to wear this shirt? And then purposefully sit in the front row of a Black History assembly and nobody say anything to them. And I think that's when I realized, oh, this is real. Like, this isn't something that my grandparents experienced, great grandparents. This is something that I'm experiencing as a teenager. So for me is when I really woke up and said, okay, it's a transition. Like, I have to really adjust how I do things. But now that I say that, maybe education wise, I've always been in honors and AP classes, and being in, like I said, going to a white school, I would probably be like 1 or 2 Black people in my AP or honors classes. And at the time, I was a competitive student, so I was just like, I'm just one of the best. Like, that's just what I put in my mind. But looking back, it's making me think now, like, why was I the only Black person, or 1 of 2? Is it because, they didn't want to provide those opportunities to other Black children in schools? I don't know. I can't answer that question, but that was also an adjustment, because I was also looked at as a token Black person. Like, if people had comments, or we were reading a book or something that was dealing with racism or anything like that, I was always looked at to give my opinion first. And I'm like, wow, like, I get that I'm Black, but as a teenager, you're not really thinking about that. You're just like, I'm just gonna answer the question. But again, now being older and thinking back to certain situations, I'm like, wow, why were they asking me this question? I don't want to be the token Black girl. So
yeah. Do you believe that young Black girls are looked at differently than young white girls?
How so? Number one, especially if you're a little Black girl, and I hate to say this, but it's just the reality. You have 2 strikes against you. You're Black and you're a female. So you have to fight 2 fights at the same time. And sometimes it kind of gets muddy because you don't know which fight you're fighting. And it gets kind of hard a little bit because you wonder, like, am I ever going to be good enough? And that's tough as a kid and trying to process that. Am I ever going to be good enough? And I remember my mother always saying, you got to be 10 steps. You got to be 10 steps ahead. You got to be better than them. Even if you get 100%, I'm going to need you to get 110%, because you have to set yourself up to be looked at as the best. So my 100% would never, in my mind, was never good enough, because I'm a girl and I'm Black and I'm around all these white people who I have to fight for different things just to be looked at as an an excellent student or something like that. So yeah, I definitely think we're looked at differently. We're supposed to look a certain way. We're supposed to act a certain way. We're supposed to express ourselves in a certain way. And it could be tough. It can be tough.
Absolutely. As a young Black queen who was raised by an amazing Black queen, what are some lessons that you were taught that only people who look like us, women who look like us, will understand? Some lessons you were taught in life.
That's a great question. I had to speak a certain way. Like, if I'm around my family, I can speak a little bit more lax than if I'm at school or in a work setting. That was something we were taught very young. You need to pronounce your words. You need to be respectful at all times. Never get out of character. That's something that we were taught. No matter if somebody's being rude to you, you're not to be rude back. Respect your elders. That's something that we were definitely taught. Act like a lady at all times. Yeah. Never step out of being a lady, no matter what the situation accepts or whatever the case may be. Be a leader, not a follower. Oh my God, my mother used to say that all the time. Are you a leader or a follower? And I think that stems from, because we're all looked at as being lower than, and when I say that, I mean white people look at us as being like, you're here and this is where you're going to stay. She always made sure that we had to be leaders in our friend groups, in a classroom and things like that. So I would just say those are kind of some of the lessons she taught us. I can't think off the top of my mind right now. I'm pretty sure it's some other good ones.
You have an amazing mother. So you do. So being that you're about to get married, and you know that we were going to have some some little nieces and nephews, some little boys and girls running around.
Uh,
What are the lessons that you don't want to have to teach your children about life, about this country, about the police, that you know that you're going to have to teach them, but you really don't want to?
That's a fear. I had to think about those tough conversations. One thing I definitely can think about that I know I'm going to have to talk to my kids about is when you encounter the police, make sure your hands are visible at all times. Me as an adult now in my life, I mean, knock on wood, I've never been pulled over by a police officer, but I do get scared or nervous when I see a police following me because I'm like, oh God, like, what am I supposed to do? So, and it's scary. It's just like, you know, it's just scary. So that's definitely one conversation that I know I'm going to have with my children, boy or girl, because nowadays it don't matter if you're a boy or girl, a Black boy or girl. So that's one thing I'm definitely going to make sure your hands are visible. Don't wear, and it's sad to say, I think about this all the time, don't wear a hood over your head. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's something that I'm gonna have to have that conversation. When you go into places, make sure your face is visible at all times, because you don't want somebody to mistake you for a certain type of person. And or that you're up to something and that gives them they think the right to approach you in a certain way. That's something that scares me for my kids. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have the conversation of, you have to be 10 times better than these people. I mean, it's sad. It's the reason why I say it's sad to say is because we put so much pressure on kids that they shouldn't have to experience. I remember having a call probably about a month ago with because I'm a part of this diversity and inclusion work group that my job has now created, to just talk about these types of conversations. And one of our Black VPs, he said that his sons had a conversation with him, and they said, you know, Dad, you showed us how to maneuver this world. You showed us that we had to get the good grades. We had to try 10 times harder. And we appreciate it because we're successful, but you shouldn't have to do that. Resonated with me because I'm like, wow, like that's my life. Like, I had to do things, you know, I had to be 10 times harder. I had to put this undue pressure on myself because I knew what I was fighting against. And, you know, I'm fine. At least I think I'm fine, you know, but I just wonder about the different psychological effects that has on kids. The fact that they have to start off at a young age with so much pressure of knowing that they're going to be looked at differently because of the color of their skin. And, you know, I look at the innocence of children that play with each other, you know, and color is not a factor. They just want to play. And you just know that at some point it's going to be ruined by a grown person because they say something to them. And it breaks my heart because I'm just like, these kids don't know anything other than, this is my friend. I want to play with my friend. So that's one conversation that I don't want to have with my kids, because I dread the day that my child comes home to me and says, Mommy, so-and-so said they can't play with me because I'm Black. So, like, that is going to break my heart. And so that's one conversation that I dread having, and I pray I don't have to have, based on, you know, I'm praying that it's change that starts to happen. So when I do start to have children, they don't have to go through this. But that's one conversation I'm really dreading to have, is that conversation of, Mommy, so-and-so can't play with me because I'm Black.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in this county. Especially in this county.
Yeah, especially in this county.
Especially. Okay, so if you could write a survival guide, this is the last question. If you could write a survival guide for Black queens in America, what is one piece of advice you would put in that book? How to survive as a Black woman in America?
I think I would start my survival guide with, you are enough. And I say that because, going back to a previous question you had asked me, and I say, you know, I always felt like, am I good enough? You know, because I'm fighting these two battles of being a girl, being a female, and being Black. I would put that in the front page, because little girls need to know you are, and it starts there. You are enough. Like, don't let people tell you that your skin color, whether it's light, dark, tan, mocha, whatever color it is, it's beautiful, it's enough. because that's going to set the tone for the rest of your life. And that's going to help you maneuver different paths that you have to go. And if you could start off with telling yourself every day, I'm enough, whatever comes with you or comes to you, it's not going to phase you. And then I would couple that with prayer. Stay in prayer, because it's a lot of stuff that only God can handle. Only God can remove. Only God can open up doors and close doors. He can remove people. I've been there where he has removed certain people out of my career path, out of my personal path, whatever the path was. And just going back on race, like people who have made racist comments to me at work, you know, he's moved them out of my way because I prayed. I stayed patient. I didn't react on my own flesh. And a lot of this stuff is outside of us. You know, it's not something that just because we react on it, it doesn't mean that that's the right thing to do at this time. That's our flesh saying, let me just go and get this person. But I would just say my survival guide would stay in prayer, and you are enough. And I think that those two things, I know you said one, but I think things are kind of like, I'm a rebel, sorry y'all. But those are like the two things, I think those are like the core things that I think Black queens need today. Not even little girls. I think all Black women need to hear that, because I think we sacrifice so much all the time. Like we're sacrificing for our kids, our families, our husbands, our jobs, you know, just everybody. We're just so forgiving, and we're so sacrificial beings. I don't even know if that's a word. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but we sacrifice a lot. And I just think we can just remind ourselves, you're enough. And just
That's so good. So good. Well, thank you so much, Queen, for coming by and talking to me today. I truly appreciate you. I truly appreciate you. All right, Queen, if you ever want to come out again, you know where I am.
And you know where I am.
Love you, girl. I'll see you later.
Love you. Bye.